The mistake of the Ottoman Empire. It was a foggy morning in 1683. Europe was silent at that time, but that silence suddenly broke. The surroundings shook with the sound of some footsteps. A power that had lasted for about 600 years was moving forward. The name of that power was the Ottoman Empire. They came and stood in the city of Vienna. The people of Europe were trembling in fear. Because the fighting power of the Ottomans was terrifying. They had conquered Arabia from North Africa. They had even extended their borders into Europe. The city of Vienna was trapped from all sides at that time. There was no food inside the city. People were dying without eating. The king had already fled after leaving his palace. Everyone assumed that this time Vienna also fell to the Ottomans. But right at that moment, the wheel of history turned. In the 13th century, Turkish warriors built the foundation of this empire. In 1453, Sultan Mehmed won Constantinople. From then on, they became powerful. They changed the name of this city to Istanbul. This Istanbul became the main center of Ottoman power, Janissary. After that came the reign of Sultan Suleiman the Magnificent. During his time, the progress of this empire happened. Their rule was across 3 continents. Their military force was extremely powerful. Their government rules and regulations were so advanced that the big countries of Europe used to feel scared. But around the 1680s, this powerful structure began to weaken. The Sultan of that time, Mehmed, used to stay busy with the luxury of the palace rather than war. As a result, the real power shifted to the hands of the Grand Vizier. The Grand Vizier was Kara Mustafa Pasha. He was a greedy man. He wanted a victory that would make his name immortal in history. He had sensed the weakness of the Holy Roman Empire. This was a terrifying example of one man's greed, Kara Mustafa. In the spring of 1683, that war Ottomans became active. About 100,000 to 170,000 soldiers from the entire empire gathered in one place. The main strength of this army was the Janissary force. These were the Sultan's personal group. Then the defenders of Vienna made a treaty with King John Sobieski. The treaty was simple. If an attack happened on either party, the other party would come forward with all its strength. This ruined the fate of the Ottomans. On July 14th, the Ottoman army surrounded the city of Vienna. Grand Vizier Kara Mustafa pitched his tent on the opposite side of the city's royal palace. And right here, he made the first mistake of his life. His commanders were telling him, "Attack the city with full force all at once right now. It is possible to break them right now." But Kara Mustafa hesitated. He did not want the city to be destroyed through war. Because according to the rules, if a city is conquered through war, the ordinary soldiers loot all the wealth. He wanted the city to surrender on its own. Through this, he would get all the wealth. This greed for wealth and underestimating the enemy became their downfall. The Ottomans were experts in making tunnels and destroying walls. Their underground craftsmen started digging tunnels in Vienna. A bloody war started underground. Shelling was done with cannons from above. Right then, the King of Poland, John Sobieski, came forward with his winged hussar cavalry force. These winged hussars were the most deadly warriors of that era. The rescue team decided to come through the mountain and forest roads. And right here, the second big mistake of the Ottomans was caught. Kara Mustafa's Tatar force did not guard the forest road at that time. They were busy looting the surrounding villages. The vizier could not even imagine that an army would be able to come across the jungle and mountains. He kept his forces in the tunnels. He did not arrange for extra guards at all. On the night of September 11th, fire lit up on the mountain peak. The people of Vienna could understand that angels had arrived to save them. The war started at 4 a.m. on September 12th. Kara Mustafa now fell into a two-way trap. The city of Vienna was in front, and a furious army was behind. Here he made his third mistake. He did not jump on the enemy with full strength. He divided a small number of soldiers into both sides. As a result, none of his forces could fight with full strength. Around 5 p.m., King Sobieski of Poland gave the final order. About 18,000 horsemen started riding down the mountain slope. Kara Mustafa himself fled somehow with his life. They fled, leaving behind all their cannons and gold. They even left 100 sacks of coffee beans in the field, from which the first coffee house was later started in Vienna. But for the Ottomans, this was the beginning of a dark age. The history inside the palace. This defeat of Vienna did not happen in one day. Behind this was a dirty history. After 1566, the conquest of new countries by the Ottomans stopped. And whenever there was nothing left to conquer outside, the palace officials started fighting among themselves for power. The sultans gradually stopped keeping track of the country. They kept themselves locked in the harem. The harem was a private place for the sultan's women, slaves, and eunuch officials to stay. No news of what was happening outside, or how the people of the country were dying, reached the sultan. The influential women of the harem, especially the mothers and wives of the sultans, started running the entire empire from behind the curtains. They kept the sultan as merely a machine to give birth to children. They used the sultan like a puppet from behind the curtains. A big example of this was Sultan Ibrahim. He is called Mad Ibrahim in history. He was on the throne from 1640 to 1648. This man spent the entirety of his life trapped inside the harem. He had no experience at all on how to run a state. As a result, his mother, his wife, and the viziers in a dirty game among themselves for power. At that time, a good vizier tried to fix the tax system of the country, but the greedy officials of the palace were used to practicing corruption. They saw that if the vizier was honest, they would lose, so they joined with the sultan's wife. They fired that honest vizier from his job. At one point, the situation became so bad that the Janissary force and the Sultan's own wife together brutally killed Sultan Ibrahim. The pride of the Ottomans. The countries of Europe understood by losing to the Ottomans repeatedly that they had to change themselves to survive. They modernized their army, they created new technologies. The people of Europe had a big problem. Their food was very bland. Therefore, to increase the taste of food, they used to buy hot spices from Asia. And all the roads for these spices to come were under the control of the Ottomans. The Ottomans put so much tax on these spices that the people of Europe were becoming poor. The Ottomans thought, they have no place to go except our roads. They are bound to pay whatever price we ask. But the people of Europe did not give up. They thought, we will go to Asia by sea around the African continent. Even then, we will not give a single tax to the Ottomans. From there, a new history began. European sailors crossed the sea, went around Africa, and arrived in Asia. The countries of Europe started becoming rich overnight. Iran, located on the other side of the Ottomans, was not sitting idle either. Because of the excessive taxes of the Ottomans, Iran's spice business had also decreased. Then Iran welcomed European merchants to their ports. Between 1570 and 1590, Iran fought and snatched away some areas from the Ottomans, which no one could do in the last few centuries. But the Ottomans did not give importance to all this at all. They stayed with their old pride. They are inferior to us. We have been defeating them for many years. What new things do we have to learn from them? This wrong mindset of considering themselves superior without keeping pace with the times pushed the Ottoman Empire hundreds of years behind the rest of the world. The defeat of the Ottomans to Russia, the year 1774. The Ottomans lost in a terrifying war with Russia. After the war, they had to sign a treaty, the name of which was the Treaty of Küçük-Kaynarca. This defeat reduced the confidence of the Ottomans. The states of the empire lost faith in their own government. When rebellions were going on everywhere, the Sultan saw that he did not have the power to stop these rebellions. So he made a strange decision. He withdrew his direct control over the distant states. He said, you collect taxes yourselves from your areas and send a small portion of it to our Istanbul. Do whatever you want with the rest. In Arabia, the Saud family increased their power. Much later, in 1932, it became a new country named Saudi Arabia. This defeat proved that the Ottoman Empire was no longer powerful like before. The destruction of the Janissary force and the last attempt at modernization, the month of June, 1826. The environment of Istanbul city was peaceful then. Sultan Mahmud understood that if this empire was not modernized right now, the countries of Europe would defeat them. But the Janissary force became an obstacle on the way to becoming modern. These Janissaries did not fight like before now. They said, our old rules are the best. We will not follow any new rules. In the middle of the night on June 15, 1826, the Sultan gave a secret order. He was ordered to the base of the Janissaries. When the Janissaries were asleep, right at that time of the night, cannon shelling started. Within just one day, the centuries-old force was wiped out. This event is called Vaka-i Hayriye. After this, the Sultan started to rebuild the country anew. The debt of the Ottoman, the 1850s. The Ottoman Empire was in a good condition then. New railway lines were being laid, big schools were being built. To win the Crimean War with Russia, the Ottomans had to borrow a lot of money from the banks of Europe, because of which they had a lot of debt. The Ottoman Empire then became the servant of the big countries of Europe. The countries of Europe gave them the name Sick Man of Europe. Everyone was just waiting for when this old man would die, and they would divide the property. Around 1878, taking advantage of this weakness, the countries of the Balkan region, Bulgaria, Serbia, Romania, declared themselves independent with the help of Russia. To save themselves, the Ottomans gave foreign companies the opportunity to do business in the country. They waived all kinds of taxes on them, but all the profit used to go abroad, declaring war against the Ottomans, the beginning of the 20th century. The Ottomans realized that if things continued like this, their homeland would no longer remain on the map. They united against the spying of the Sultan. This group was called the Young Turks. In 1908, they made a huge revolution. They snatched power away from the Sultan. They introduced a parliamentary ruling system in the country. Their intention was good. They wanted to unite everyone in the empire to create a new Ottoman identity, so that the country would not break apart. But the problem was there was no agreement even among these Young Turks themselves. Taking advantage of this internal trouble, the small countries of the Balkan region, Greece, Serbia, Bulgaria, joined hands together. They declared war on the Ottomans. As a result, whatever land they had, even in Europe, that also went away. The fall of the Ottoman Empire, the year 1914, World War I across the whole world. The big powers of Europe were making treaties among themselves. Two roads were open before the Ottomans then, to turn into the slaves of Europe, or else to defeat the old enemies. They joined the war, taking the side of Germany, but luck was not in their favor. Germany lost in the war. About 800,000 Ottoman soldiers died in the war. After the war, the victorious Allied forces, Britain, France, Greece, and Italy, divided the entire country of the Turks among themselves. The Sultan's power was only in a few cities of Istanbul, that too under the guard of foreign soldiers. But the ordinary people of Turkey could not accept this insult. They fought and drove away the Greek and French forces. They wanted to save their independent country, Turkey. Finally, on October 29, 1923, the old Ottoman Empire of the Sultan was declared abolished forever. The Republic of Turkey was born as a new, modern, and independent country on the world map. And in this way, a 600-year-old empire came to an end, whose fall happened only because of the mistake of not changing with time. Now the question is, in which year was the Ottoman dissolved?